Koinonia fam, how y'all doing? Yeah. Hey, it's good to see y'all. Y'all look amazing. Listen, how many of you guys remember behavior charts from like elementary school? Okay. All right, so for those of you that don't know what a behavior chart, it's like this column of manila paper that sits at the front of the classroom, and it has these clothespins with like your name on it. And as the day progresses and as your behavior progresses, you make your way down the behavior chart. And each column has like different consequences. They try to use colors you're gonna need in your adult life, like green for good job, yellow for slow down, and red for stop it. I was always having to get my folder signed. I was always sitting out for like recess and going to, the principal's office. I guess what I'm really trying to say is, as a kid, I was a bad little boy. Always embarrassing my mother and my father by the amount of times my clip got moved from green to yellow and sometimes red. How many times my parents had to convince my teachers at a conference that I wasn't always talkative, I was just insightful, inquisitive, inquiring about today's lesson plans, just to go home and train my tongue to have a more conscientious be quiet and listen reflex. When I sat in the back of Miss Collins' class in deep conversation with Ashley about how the title of her twin was labeled as sin, like I didn't know the definition of sincere, of grace, of mercy, of dry bones that once lived here, of give it a little time and trust God's lesson plans. Miss Collins told me, come here, confused. I asked, how did you hear? She said, your voice carries weight, and someone is always listening. I need you, my son, to pay attention. Pay attention to the lesson plans. Then maybe you can see how God gave you responsibility over the very thing he calls a whisper. How your voice carries enough weight to turn a classroom into a comedy show in a matter of 1, 2, 3 days. Seconds. My mistake. You see, these crowds are my fans reaching for my hymn, but how holy is my tongue? I told her I'm sorry. My sarcastic humor is all I brought from home that day. I'll get to working on it. You see, it took me back to recess when I paid the price for not paying attention, watching the other kids play, because I had removed the clip from my tongue, praying that there will be no casualties to suffer that day, because when I made it home, there will be hell to pay. Y'all, my mama don't play. If only I had paid attention. If only I had chosen more carefully. If only we had chosen more carefully. Like when the head of Dominion reached for leaves in a game of hide and seek after eating from that tree, if only he chose more carefully. Not on the choices of how to cloak his sin, but on the words he stood on as a man when cuddling with his rib with each rebuttal that she said. I wonder how many times it rung in his head. The words of no man, knowledge of good and evil, life and death. Or had it just become white noise, like a hiss from the serpent's lips? God's sentences somehow subdued as syllables. Those same sentences, when chosen more carefully, they carry the weight of the silence my Father speaks, a double-edged sword that pierces my skin and calls my nephews into men. Because the sooner you understand that you preach the gospel by the steps you take, not by the words you articulate. And sometimes the echoes of those steps come back to haunt you. That's the moment you realize that someone is always paying attention. I appreciate you guys.